Hi everyone, it's Cindy. Welcome back to Studioloo. So I'm here today working on my Blackbird Crow Ravity journals here. So I'll give you an update on the covers. I've done so much mixed media with these. Oh my goodness. So this one I got the bird attached. I've alcohol inked and I added the little label down here, and see that little crow in the label? Isn't that adorable? And then we have this here. Then I did this kind of partial holographic embossing over the image, and I've sort of treated the whole surface with ultramat and inking. I've got this cool stamp. I'll show you the stamp itself because you may not be able to see it on here, but see this cool netting stamp? I used it on here, so hopefully you can see it. It's there, it's down here, it's in different areas. It's here. You can sort of kind of see it, like when you're looking at the book you can see it, but it's hard to see on camera. Then I colored in and added embossing over this crow on the back, and then here I added a crow top and bottom on the spine. So everything has the same kind of texture now. It's all good to go. This cover is pretty much done. And then the crows of pear blossom. I keep saying pearl blossom, it's funny. So I did some fun inking front and back on here. You'll see I also used that stamp on here. Sealed this all in, built the spine, added some lace that I gilded on the back, but then I was perplexed. So if you take a look here, I can maybe teach you something about a new method that I used to build my spine for this book. So typically I will use like tape and cheesecloth and all that, but I was playing because this is a nice stretch fabric that I covered the spine with, and I felt like I didn't want to have to add even more bulk to this. Now, the reason this is a different project than most of my projects is this is a really wide book. It's like at least 6 inches, I think, maybe more. Yeah, 6 1/4. So the trouble was, what I wanted to do is I wanted to stitch here and here. I actually wanted to stitch my spine, the fabric, to the book covers, but I was in a pickle because this is too wide for under my sewing machine. So, you know, up here would be your sewing machine head, and then there would be the base here, like the neck that would come down, and then you would set it on top of the plate to sew. Well, my body came out to here. I couldn't fit it in there. So what I ended up doing was I took this edge, and so if you imagine that this is my sewing machine arm, like this is my arm here, this is my sewing machine arm, I put it in like this. I put the needle in here, and then I just sort of slowly, I put my stitch speed sort of medium and had my stitches kind of close together, single stitch, and I just pulled the book slowly this way, forcing that needle to just work as I pulled. So it's stitched up here, but it was kind of wobbly and messy, and I wasn't really happy with the result. So then I thought, okay, I'm going to paint over it, which I did do. You can't really see it now though. So yeah, it's covered. So I black painted down the stitches and on the raw edges of the book, but I was still like, oh, it doesn't look finished enough. And also the acrylic paint felt a little sharp. Like, you know how when you're building up thick acrylic, if you get a little spot where the paint raises up, it could feel a little bit hard or sharp. I didn't like that. So I'm like, okay. So then I fabric tacked this lace down the side, because I also did want to bring some more gold color into this, because I felt like I like the original book color of the cover, but I also like the mixed media, but then I felt like maybe I lost too much of the yellow. So I used this, and then I fabric tacked it down on both sides and let it dry fully. I still felt though I didn't like, because the lace would peel all the way back to where I glued it, and that didn't feel right to me either. So I needed another idea, and that's when I came up with something fun. So like I said, the book will not go in this way, it's too wide. Or sorry, this way, it's too wide. It will go in this way. So what I ended up doing was I stitched across and then lifted my needle, went back, across, and I got this cool thatching pattern. And first of all, my favorite thing about it is I love how it stitched right across. And so this is so well attached now. And also it pushes that lace down so it's not going to flop up. So yeah, this was like just a mind melting good moment for me. I was like, this is wonderful. And I'm leaving these back strings on because they're not going to matter. I'm going to be putting a new spine on top and it'll all be neatly covered anyways. But I wanted also to show you what that looks like. So you stitch across and then you leave your thread attached and you come back over here, stitch across again. You're starting on this, going all the way across your spine onto here about 1/2 inch, and then you're pulling back. And so you're going to have that thread, right? You're just going to pull right back, stitch across again, all the way down. And then this is what you're left with. And it's really glorious. I'm so happy with this. So that's my little discovery. So this morning I've been working on ephemera. I decided to put, it doesn't need to just be crows and or ravens. I'm thinking blackbirds, corvids, maybe like, you know, magpie starlings, jackdaws, other black birds, interesting birds like in the same vein as a crow are all acceptable. So I took that really old book page, backed it, and some Edith Holden. So those are done. I spent a good amount of the morning working on this. Actually, I went with my daughter. We went out and had lunch, and then we went and sat at a coffee shop, and she did her project for her beavers. They're doing this fun Sasquatch project, like they're trying to prove if Sasquatch is real or not, and they're studying Sasquatch and all these different topics around, you know, if a Sasquatch was real, how would it live, right? So the topic that she had to study was hibernation and the different kinds of hibernation. And actually, I learned a lot from this. So did you know that there's actually essentially 3 kinds of hibernation? So the first one is called brumation, and it is what reptiles do. So like snakes, they will go underground, and because they can't control their body temperature, they'll go together, usually in groups, like in a hibernaculum. And they'll hang out underground, but on days where the temperature rises and it's warm and they have access to come out onto a rock or to search for water, they'll come out and get water, they'll sun themselves before they go back in. So they're not truly asleep, they're not hibernating. So then there's another thing called, so like if hibernation is, you know, an animal sleeping pretty much all winter, right? Like they don't sleep 100% solidly, but mostly they do sleep. Their metabolism goes way down. They, you know, they're holding on to all of their fat and all of their food resources, but they do wake up, they do eat, they do drink a little bit, you know, within their hovel that they're in. So then there's this other thing called torpor. And what torpor is another kind of hibernation that is like only for maybe one day or a few days. It's a shorter hibernation. But the weirdest thing about it is it's unplanned. So like in normal hibernation, you know, you see animals preparing by collecting food, building up their fat stores in their body, that kind of thing. And, you know, some animals do that also who don't hibernate, like tree squirrels. They don't hibernate, but they do have to prepare for winter by having food access. So you see that they will, you know, collect large piles of pine cones to put under the base of the trees that they nest in. Or, you know, you'll see them collecting and hiding nuts everywhere. And they actually, they forget about a hilariously high number of the nuts that they store, which is funny. So they actually end up storing, I think, 3 times what they would need because of this, you know, whole memory loss that they suffer from. So anyways, what torpor is, it's unplanned hibernation in shorter stints. So like it may be a day or a few days. So some animals that do this are hummingbirds. So hummingbirds, while they do fly to warm climates, you know, in winter, they also they fly during the day, and then at night they fall into torpor. They literally they sleep all night. Sometimes if they've had a particularly rough couple of days, their bodies will, you know, keep them asleep for a good night, and then they'll wake up a couple days later and they'll continue their journey. So I had no idea. Other animals that go into torpor are skunks, and it was really funny because we took a nice walk yesterday and we saw a skunk, and I said, I guess skunks don't hibernate, or do you think maybe because the climate's been so unseasonably warm that maybe they're just not hibernating? Because there was this very grouchy little skunk, and she was hissing away at my husband as we drove by, and so, you know, it had me thinking, I wonder, you know, what they do. So now I know they go into torpor, and that makes sense that, you know, he wouldn't have been hibernating. So that being said, an interesting animal that goes into torpor that I had no idea, and now I'm trying to think of how this may have impacted me as a child, hamsters. So when I looked up the animals that go into torpor, I found this YouTube video of this like rodent expert, and he was talking about, you know, when he first got into hamsters, because he's a hamster kind of aficionado, like he loves hamsters, he has several of them. So he said, you know, when I first learned about hamsters, I just kind of learned all the same things that you would as a pet owner, and I, you know, didn't particularly know about anything. And then all of a sudden one day my hamster just seemed to be so sleepy that it wouldn't get out of its house, and it was just not really responsive, and I was so worried that, you know, maybe it was dying or it was sick. So then it was the weekend, I couldn't take my hamster into a vet because like the emergency vet doesn't accept small rodents, and my vet wasn't open until Monday. So he said, you know, so I turned to YouTube to see what possibly could be going on with my hamster, and then I learned about torpor, and like that's exactly what it was. He slept for 3 days, and then he woke up totally fine. He was hungry. You know, when I would try to bother him when he was asleep, he would not seem dead, but he would seem very low energy, and he wouldn't really want to come out of his house, and I could tell I was definitely annoying him. And so now I'm thinking, because I had hamsters as a kid too, and I wonder if that ever happened, and I just must have assumed they were sick or something, and then I thought, oh, they just got better. So yeah, the things that you learn when you're doing a Sasquatch hunt project with your child. So yeah, we had lunch, we did that. I worked on, you know, cutting things out while she was drawing what a Sasquatch hut would look like and where it would be. That was her project. So she had to do that. So yeah, we had a nice little afternoon. I've got sort of an, not really fully planned, but a roughly planned week of fun activities to do with the kids. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm actually going to put this here, even though I did use some silver gilding. I'm just going to cover it up because I want to put a label on there. Is there anything else I want to do with this? Let me think. I've got this, where did I put that piece of paper? So I also packed up my, oh, look at that. I've got some more pages in here. Hold on. I packed up my, oh yeah, it said that these would be ephemera. My big yellow bag that I bought quite some time ago, if you've been following me. You remember that I bought this big yellow bag that it was kind of like for crafting or scrapbooking, and I was thinking it would be nice to make my own kind of junk journal portable setup, so I could bring a project with me. And like, I hadn't, you know, set it up yet really. So today I just threw all my stuff that I'm working on my journal, like everything that could be cut and backed and fussy cut and all that. And I just threw it in that bag, and I got a bit of work done. Not a ton, because I was helping my daughter, but a bit. So I also found this awesome reflective paper, and it's going to be so good because, like, you know how crows and magpies like shiny things? Yeah. I've got cut this little, I found this little logo. I scoured through a bunch, but not all, but a bunch of my books this morning to find crow, corvid, raven, starling kind of things. And I found a ton. I've got all my pages for both of these journals are in the book press. So that's exciting. And they will hang out there while I work on some ephemera. My nose is itchy. Okay. What do I want to do with this? Oh, yawny. Probably back it. Some packaging paper here. When I was, we were driving back home, and we decided, well, we didn't decide, like the route that we take home, we went past this area that's like not too far from where we live, but like not super close, but not too far, maybe like a 10-minute drive, if that. It was a house fire a couple of days ago, and it was weird. Like, my husband was out with my son at the playground, and at just like a random playground, because sometimes they'll be driving somewhere and my son will see a playground and he'll say, hey, can we go to the playground? So they had done one of those random excursions to a playground, and my husband started to smell smoke and hear like first he smelled and saw the smoke. And he was like, oh, you know, that it was like he was a little far away, but not that far away. So just as he started to dial 911, because this is in a city center, all of a sudden he heard the siren. So he knew they were coming, and then the smoke started getting thicker, and the wind had shifted in a direction that it was blowing toward the playground. So, you know, he scooped up my son and they got out of there. So it was really awful. Like, a whole house like burnt to the ground, and to my understanding they didn't get there for 10 or 15 minutes from the time it started, which is really weird to me, because like we have fire stations so close to everything. Like, we have so many fire stations here that when you buy a house, like, you know, your insurance requires you to, you know, advise how far you are from a fire station. And like, most places in this whole region are really close to a fire station, and usually the response is so fast, but like they're reporting it was 10 or 15 minutes. I don't know. And so the house that caught fire is complete rubble. It is gone. And so most of the houses in this neighborhood where the fire happened are they're brick, because we have a lot of brick in this area. So, you know, that's a good thing when you have a fire. You know, usually structurally, unless it's on the roof, it's okay. Like, you don't lose the whole house, but this whole house went down. And the house next to it also sustained quite significant damage. So, today, there's there's investigation, forensics, all that going on. And then my husband found out that there were actually, unfortunately, some bodies recovered from the fire yesterday. So at first I think they thought the houses were empty, but it turns out they weren't. So, so sad, so upsetting. But yeah, we, you know, all I can say is I really hate when fires like this happen. It's just so sad. And You never want to see that for people, right? It's just such an awful situation. But I worry a lot. I know that one of the mayors in the region I live in is very obsessed with the idea of like making all of the landlords who own houses and they rent out parts of their house, be it the basement or whatever, about registering and making them legal apartments. And you know, there's a lack of housing, and we also have kind of an issue with a lot of foreign students that have come to this region for education, and it's a really tough situation because actually I think these students are they're being taken advantage of in major ways. They're kind of being lied to by a lot of like organizations that, you know, try to bring them here because there's money to be made, right? And a lot of these quote unquote universities or colleges, as they call themselves, but they're not like accredited in the same way as official colleges. Like there's a lot of problematic ones, and they make promises to these kids about, you know, the kind of jobs that they'll get, and it's just simply not the truth. Like, and then you hear about you know, when places like a grocery store has a little, you know, job fair, like there's lineups of like hundreds of people because there's just not enough jobs. And yeah, it's really sad, and I don't like to hear that people get taken advantage of in that way at all. It's very frustrating that someone would do that. So what's happening is those same students are finding themselves in the lurch because they can't get work to be able to support themselves, to be able to pay rent, because also the rental costs in this area are just unreal. Like like a lot of places, you know, we've really entered this weird capitalist meltdown of society or something, and these people just, you know, they're barely able to stay above water. So what happens is that they end up having to move in with several other students so that they can share the cost of everything. So I think, you know, reported in one of the cities in my region, there was like a house that had like 20 students in the basement of this one house. So the mayor of that city, he is really bound and bent on making all of the landlords register and pay an annual fee, because the main reason is about, first of all, like your region, right, that you live in. If it is underreported how many, you know, citizens you have, how many residents live in your region, you get less funding as a city or town, right? So, you know, if we have a hidden population of 100,000 people, that's 100,000 people that are using resources in our region, but they're undocumented essentially. And I don't mean that in an American way, like in an immigration sense. I mean like undocumented in the in the province or in the region where they live. That impacts everybody because, you know, you actually have a higher tax base, or you know, a base of people that you have to support. And when you try to get funding for things like a hospital, you know, expansion of major highways, schools, it's based on your population size. So like, it's really a problem when you've got a big hidden population. So he said something to the effect of like, there's been, I think he said at the time, like there had been 12 fires that occurred in illegal basements since his time as mayor. And, you know, he's very annoyed, and he basically is calling these people slum lords because, I mean, a lot of them are exactly that, unfortunately, because they pack all these people in and they don't give them safe, you know, housing. Like they have them in all these basements that have no exits. Sometimes, you know, they're making them pay for utilities, and it's like maybe they can't, so they're running these secondary heat, you know, sources, and it just doesn't end well. So he's very much like pushing this whole idea. And at first there were all of these, as a lot of people called them, angry uncles who, you know, are wealthier people, who were trying to protest the whole thing about, you know, having to pay and register and, you know, keep it up legally. But now, like, nobody has any sympathy for them. It's like, you're not gonna pull this whole, like, the government is controlling, you know, my life, my livelihood thing, because, you know, it's literally killing people or hurting people. So I don't think we need to side with the wealthy on that one. So I definitely was very happy to hear that they are taking it seriously. I attended a online town hall on the topic, and I'm so glad to hear that they're starting to crack down on it, because I don't want to see people in house fires, and, you know, I don't think anybody wants that. And that's the biggest concern for me. I mean, there's other issues too, with like too many dwellings in a single house. Like, I have the issue with the parking on my street. Like, you get too many people and it's really annoying. You can't get in your driveway, and, you know, I've had some issues there, but nothing too bad. But I know a lot of people do have a lot of issues, and it frustrates them because they do their best to take care of the neighborhood. But there are some people who, again, when you have too many people living in the same quarters, right? It's a problem that there's extra cars, sometimes extra garbage, sometimes disrespectful renters. And, you know, a lot of people take a lot of pride in their home, and those people sometimes don't act the same as homeowners. So, you know, during the town hall, there was one guy who was like complaining because he lives beside a residential mailbox where, you know, there's a whole group of mailboxes in one big mailbox, kind of, and he was annoyed because people were hanging around there and, you know, kind of like loitering next to his property, and they're throwing garbage everywhere. Like, he's very frustrated, and I get where he's coming from. I mean, nobody wants to deal with that. Like, that's the trouble when you live in a city and the houses are close together. You live in the suburbs, like, you know, you don't have much choice but to deal with everybody. So that's why I think most people, you know, you should try to stay as low impact on your neighbors as possible, right? That's what I try to do. Okay, I just had to trim a little off there. It was too wide. I need to get some water. Okay. And then last night I went to see a comedy show, and it was really good. It was Bruce McCulloch of Bruce McCulloch is from The Kids in the Hall. If you are Canadian, you probably know who they are, but I mean, if you're American and you're into comedy, you probably know who they are too. It was a really good show. He's very funny. He has a humor I can only describe as awkward in the sweetest way possible. I completely love his style. He's just very, I don't know the word to describe it, but he makes me laugh. I like him a lot. What do we want to do with these pieces? I need more little labels and things, like in a darker color, I think. I know I have some. I can print more. Yeah, I like that one there. I like adding like little bits of this and that on this flatter ephemera to just make it more my own. Okay. I should get my snippets out. I have like this massive basket of snipped labels and things. Yeah, I think I'll do that because I don't think I have very much left here. So just give me a moment. I'm going to get my snips. Okay, so if I ever whine about not having enough little bits and bobs, just remind me. Yeah, you sort of do. I have this huge basket of things. I'd like to start wearing it down a bit if I could, to be honest, because it's quite huge. I keep it in my, I have like this wood file folder on my wall. I keep it there, and it's so full that it barely fits in the slot of the drawer. Okay. But it's because I cut out so many things. Like when I'm going through a book, I will cut out like the chapter headings and things like that. Like these are from, you know, a book. Like they're just the chapters, the numbers. This is from actual pickles, Marty's Pickles. But the back says field trip, small batch moonshine. So these are like liquor pickles, and they were sold at one of my favorite local distilleries. So I picked some of those up. It's kind of interesting. Not right for this though. This might be good. No and no, not you guys. Go away. This is kind of cool. Perhaps as a topper. Those would be good as toppers. Maybe we'll use a couple of those. So I've got a lot done today, and I'm happy about that. I do need to film some videos though. I'm hoping to get some videos filmed. I thought I would make another video on the crow stuff because you guys seemed to be excited for this project. I'm glad. It's nice to have you along with me here. All right, so those are good. Let's cut those out. I have some paper dolls from by J. Lilo on Etsy. I need to find. I printed them this morning, and then I threw them in my bag with all my other stuff, and I need to find them now because I want to cut those out. So I'll set that aside because I want to stitch around those and add these toppers. So yeah, sitting with my daughter today at the coffee shop while I worked on my stuff, it really made my heart ache for the days where I had these creative meetups. At the time, it was mostly like knit nights, like stitch and bitch type nights. But I really think I want to start my own art night. You know, like a small get together in a setting that doesn't have too many people. I think I want to do that. I think I feel ready to do that. I didn't feel ready to do that for a very long time, because for those of you who have followed me for a while, you know I'm still pretty sensitive to the whole COVID subject, and that hasn't actually changed much. I'm still quite sensitive to the taking care of myself and my family, because it's not something I ever really want to get, and long COVID terrifies me as a concept. Especially when I see people like Physics Girl, if you follow her on YouTube, her story especially just really, it really bothers me. Okay, so we will put these folks on this beautiful marbled paper from the papertrail.ca. Local awesome paper makers. That's nice. And then I think I'll leave this because like the black on the back has purple sparkle in it, and I think it would be really nice with gel pen. So I think I'm just going to keep that as is. I'm wondering if I could find in somewhat decent time, any words I could add that would kind of go with the whole crows. There's For the Woods Are Dark. Didn't I say I was going to make some crow? You know what? Maybe I'll do that. I'm going to take a little break right now, and I'm going to go write some verses about crows, and I'm going to stitch these 2 tags, and then I'm going to come back and show you what I made for the verses for the crows, and then, yeah, we'll do a little bit more, and then I'll probably call it a video. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I am back from my wormhole. We have a page of words, and good news for you, I am actually sharing this page of words. I'm calling them Blackbird Words, and I am sharing them both as a freebie on Patreon and on my new Ko-fi site. So you can head on over to either of those sites. They are linked below, and you will find them absolutely free to share. So if you're crowing along with me here in this crow journal, you will have these now. I think that also my children have started becoming maniacal upstairs, so I may cut this video short because, well, I don't think it's that short, but I think I will probably finish up because they're going to be loud. So I finished these 2. I like how they turned out. They're super cute. Good toppers. I love this stitching fabric and paper together and just cutting out these little snips of it because they make really great tabs. I've been seeing a lot of videos lately about people making different kinds of tabs and stuff, and it's a really great way to use up scraps of fabric and paper, and, you know, definitely scraps, like in general, from your scrap bin. Just always keep little things like, you know, this kind of handy that you can collage, and you can make really interesting tabs. That being said, though, I'm probably going to continue working on this for a little while, but I will turn the camera off now, and I will talk to you again real soon. Enjoy the Blackbird words and have a wonderful day. Bye for now.